Hello and welcome to the Trevor Roberts Talkfest podcast. Tonight we're going to talk about Joey's season of The Bachelor, episode 2. Um, just going to let you know right off the bat that it is very late where I'm at. It's after midnight. I've had a crazy long week, crazy long day. Just the day job is really keeping me at full capacity right now. And then just being a dad, being a husband, it's just a full plate right now. So, but wanted to make sure that I got a chance to talk to you about the second episode. Really anxious to talk about the third door book I'm going through right now. So I'm excited to try to get that out this week. But we've had another episode of Joey's season of The Bachelor, so I'm going to go ahead and do a recap on that tonight, and then hopefully later this week do the third door. All right, so let's just jump right into Joey's second episode of The Bachelor. And also, I wanted to just share that um, I have listened to your mom and dad podcast on, they do recaps of The Bachelor for the last couple of years. And then before that, it was Jess and Becca. And I can't remember right now what their podcast was called. What was that? Um, yeah, I can't think of it. Or it was Chatty Broads. Chatty Broads, yes. And so really I've come to love especially Evan, Jess's husband. He's so funny. And I've recently started watching their YouTube videos. I used to just listen to the podcast, but once I started watching the YouTube video version of the podcast and I got to see what they look like, and especially with Evan, he's so funny in his mannerisms, and he's so goofy, and he uses his hands the way he talks. So I've really come to like it. But um, I don't know if I'm going to do this every week, but I've gotten in this rhythm of I watch this. I have to. Here's the thing: The Bachelor is on ABC, and unless you have cable and pay for that, you can't watch it on the ABC app if you're using a Dish subscription. So I can't watch The Bachelor on Monday. I have to wait till Tuesday. And so then I watched on Tuesday, and I can either record right then, but if I can't get it, I'm going to record on Wednesday. So I'm recording tonight on Wednesday night. But by that time, your mom and dad podcast has already been released. And so I want to listen to that. And so it's kind of been good for me to just like watch the episode, then listen to your mom and dad and get their thoughts, and then provide my thoughts. So throughout the podcast, I'm going to just share some of my reaction to Evan and Jess's podcast and their thoughts. Um, all right, so let's see, where do we start? So, um, the episode really kicks off with Joey and Jesse Palmer playing tennis, and I don't have a lot of thoughts around it other than just I absolutely love Jesse Palmer, and it did seem like they're starting to develop a bromance. Jesse, I hope. I mean, it would be an honor to get to meet him someday. He's just crushes everything he does, especially being in front of the camera. But I mean, it was like he was doing a couple warm up shots, like almost pretending like Joey was teaching him how to play, and then he just like delivers this forearm that looks like he's a pro. And I had this friend growing up that was annoyingly good at everything. He was younger than me, and I'd say basketball was like his best sport. And as a freshman, he's on the varsity team. But he was also like a wide receiver in football and faster than everybody else. And then he just picks up tennis like he's never practiced before, and he's better than everybody. And starts playing darts better than everybody, and it's just annoying when they're good at everything. Jesse Palmer is that guy. Of course, he was the quarterback for the Florida Gators in college, and then you can just see it with tennis. He also speaks French. I think he sings. I think he dances. He's just like presents himself perfectly every time. Public speaking, excellent. I mean, so it's almost like annoyingly good, but he's so likable that it's hard to ever picture a world where you're not liking that about him. Anyway, I love Jesse Palmer. I hope I get a chance to meet him someday. Um, all right, so let's jump into the wedding dress date. This in The Bachelor, they go on a lot of different group dates. I don't love all of it. I mean, I'm a big fan of the show. I'm a big fan of the storylines, but I think my favorite part about the show is getting to know the people in the community, and you don't get to do that with everyone, especially the people that, in the beginning episodes I are never my favorite. Because there's 32 women. You're not going to get to know all of them. You really don't get to know the lead. I feel like they don't come out of their shell until later in the season. So, and the initial group dates, it's kind of just like a gimmick or a game. Um, I think my wife loved the wedding dress date, seeing all the women rush to get into their wedding dress. Just like the anxiety of a wedding dress, thinking about their wedding. I think for a guy, I am on the side of like I thought a lot about my own wedding as a guy. Like I was super into it. And that being said, I just still couldn't get really behind the wedding dress date. It's just not my thing. But that being said, while it was going on, my wife, I watched the episode with Alex, my wife, and she pointed out to me that Evan and Jess were talking about how Joey never blinks. So throughout the whole time, I'm watching Joey like a hawk, and I'm like, he's got to blink, and like I'm gonna catch it, and I didn't. I mean, I think I got a third of the way through the show, and I wasn't even listening to what Joey was saying. It felt like I was just watching his eyes, and he never blinks. It's so weird. It's like a thing. He does not blink. I also noted that he's a terrible dancer. You could see him trying to awkwardly dance with the girls, and I have to say, it would be pretty hard to carry the torch and be the husband to 9 brides, and now you're supposed to dance with all of them. I mean, the Bachelor has to be like excellent at everything, and Joey is good at a lot of stuff, but I guess he's not a good dancer. Um, so then they go to bridal musical chairs, and it does musical chairs really does um, kind of give me anxiety. I hated musical chairs as a child. I remember going to a small town very young with my mom and my dad and my grandpa, and for the very first time they were playing musical chairs, and something to do with like a cake. Like if you were the last one and you won, you got a cake. And it was in a school. There was a lot of games going on. One of them was musical chairs, and I just didn't make it very far, and I kind of got out of it. But then throughout life in school, it like musical chairs reminds me of showing up in class for science. And it's just a normal day, you feel like, and you don't know what you're about to learn, and you get out your notepad. And the first thing the teacher says is like, all right, and today we're going to break up into groups of 3, and you just go ahead and figure it out amongst yourselves, and then we're going to do this project. All right, go. And everybody just starts looking around the room, and like I can already start figuring out in my head like, okay, those 2 are going to be up, and those 3 are a group, and I am actually just not that close with. I mean, I can just see the groups of 3 forming around, and nobody wants me to be in their group. And it's just a terrible feeling. I hated group work growing up, and I don't know that I hated musical chairs as much, but it does give you that anxiety. So you're watching the women, they're doing the musical chairs, and of course, like I also would get that anxiety of like, yes, this is a game, but this is not just straight up chance. Like there are producers. Musical chairs is literally just somebody sitting by the button. Unless they really were like, okay, we're gonna let the music play for 60 seconds, and at the end of 60 seconds, no matter what, the music stops and somebody just is happens to be by Joey and they sit down and they get the closest chair to him. But we know that's not the way it works. There was a producer that's like, I am going to hit the button when the audience favorites are by Joey or whatever, or somebody who's likely to make a big scene. Like they're trying to hit the button during a time when it's going to cause something. Nobody predicts, though, that Evelyn is going to hurdle herself across the table in just like the most absolutely perfect hurt, like she just sacrifices her body in like a true movies, like dive across the hood of the car. I mean, she just totally launches her whole top half of her body up in the air, and her feet, it's like a high jump, and her feet like come up and her whole body is gonna like clear the table, and she goes right into the chair right in between the whoever was trying to sit in that spot and Joey, and just crashes on the ground. And then when she gets back up and realizes she's not even going to get the chair, she wasn't even that mad about it. Um, I guess then the other thing I noted was like the camera cuts to Jesse's reaction when this is happening, and it is very a genuine like, oh my god, that was a pretty crazy moment, and it really put a smile on my face as far as the musical chairs goes, and her attitude about not getting the spot even after hurdling her body was pretty cool. Um, so next we get Maria getting a little FaceTime here. I just can't get over like when I was watching your mom and dad podcast on YouTube, they really feel like Maria is gonna be leaving the show soon, and I just like can't even fathom that because she's just so awesome in so many ways, and Joey clearly, Joey says, I can't think of what he says. Like something like, I can't, you're gonna keep the best of me or you're gonna get the best out of me, or like he's very, he doesn't know what to think around her, like he feels nervous or anxious, like he clearly really likes her, and he recognizes that he likes her, and it's almost out of his control, like almost like he's the lead and there's 32 women trying to go after him, and Maria he likes, and he's already in this place where he doesn't want her to leave, and he recognizes that, and it's like Maria is playing the game that way, being like, well, I'm not going to kiss you, and then she ends up kissing him and saying that she tells him she wasn't going to kiss him, and that she just couldn't not kiss him, which if you think about the psychology of that, it's basically like saying, somebody says to you, I wasn't going to kiss you because of the way this game is played, but then when I was around you, I couldn't resist kissing you. And so you're just sitting there thinking like, well, I'm irresistible. Like, which is just going to make you feel amazing. Also, she's attractive and he's clearly attracted to her. Also, she's extremely confident. She's mysterious. Like he says, I want to get to know you. Tell me about you. And if you pay attention, like she doesn't say anything. She doesn't give him anything. So she's definitely leaving him wanting more. So she really crushes it throughout this whole episode. And I just cannot fathom her leaving early. You never know, but I think I'll be devastated if that happens. She mentions here that she owns a sprinkle business, which is pretty perfect. I mean, um, how do you not love sprinkles, and who doesn't? Like it's just really, you own a sprinkle business, and going back to what I said last week, it just seems like she's an heiress, or like her family is rich, and she even says it's so super cool, like the family biz is sprinkles, because they're eating like a cake and there's sprinkles on it, and she's like, oh, the family biz is sprinkles. And it's just so cool, like her dad owns a sprinkle business and she's gonna inherit it, and it's like, did you invent sprinkles? I mean, it's crazy. I don't know how you can get so rich from the sprinkles, but at the same time, I don't know how many sprinkles there are. Like anytime we want to buy sprinkles, it's like there's five options in the grocery store, and if she invented one of them, and honestly, I think there might not even be all the same brand. So it's like she might have really invented sprinkles. It's pretty crazy. Um, and then okay, so then we kind of cut to Lauren. She's just in one of those moods. And she does end up talking a little bit about how her dad passed away about 7 months before. And we find out about this because Maria's got like a GoPro. She's talking about, I think she's just kind of like saying, they're all in their wedding dresses, and she's saying how her dad's gonna walk her down the aisle. And Lauren kind of realizes in that moment that her dad's passed away, and her dad's not gonna walk her down the aisle when she gets married. And I think it really felt like she hadn't thought about it, and she was just kind of realizing it right then and there, that she was like processing it for the first time, that no one's gonna walk her down the aisle. And I'm sure a lot of the girls ended up giving her some support in that. But Maria is like the first one that we see that's like, this is totally valid. It's okay that you're feeling this way. And then throughout the group date, they keep cutting back to Lauren, and she's talking about this, and she's almost frustrated with herself that she's kind of stuck in this mood and she can't get out of it. And I can relate to that so much, where um I just genuinely want to be a happy person. But probably just like anybody, sometimes something is so powerful that you just get stuck in it. And like I spend way too much time on Instagram or looking at a reel, or I used to do TikTok. Thankfully, I was able to get that off my phone. But now I'm just doing Instagram reels or whatever I might be doing. And one of the constant messages is like, be positive. Happy people attract happy people, and it's contagious. And if your attitude sets the stage for your life, and your focus determines your reality, right? And so just like essentially just trying to be happy is going to go a long way. And nobody wants to be in a bad mood, but sometimes something is so powerful, it's like this vibe. And they even say it's all about the vibes, and vibes is such a like a thing right now, the way people are always talking about vibes. It's such a perfect way to describe what it's like you get stuck in a moment. It's a huge thing for me right now. Like there's a thing going on in my personal life that's very negative, and it's a little bit out of my control. And there's some things I can control, but I find myself just going back to it and back to it, and it's affecting so many things in my life right now. And I'm really trying to work my way through it, but I sometimes get stuck in it. And so I really related with her. Now, that being said, um, I don't want to compare my situation to her losing her dad. I mean, it's not the same at all. I'm just trying to just specifically talking about how you get stuck in that moment. Her losing her dad, that's devastating. She's losing her dad 7 months ago, going on the show. I don't think she's probably fully processed that by any means, and she shouldn't have yet. It felt like all the women were very supportive of her, especially like how she didn't talk to him about it during the wedding part, but later in the evening part of the group date, she wants to talk to him about it. All the women are supportive of that. So that is really hard. Her sister wasn't there. I mean, they split them up. They split up the two sisters, so she was sort of alone in that moment. And it was good to see Maria coming and having her back on that. So then we cut to Jess. Jess has sort of like become the mini villain. Jess, her and Joey are feeding each other cupcakes. Everyone says kiss. Taylor hates it. They end up kissing. Um, I'm not going to talk a lot about Rachel. Rachel, for me, I just don't. I think I don't always understand Joey, and I'm not picking up on the signals of who he likes and who he doesn't. Um, I felt like the time that we saw with Rachel was awkward. It was very like, it just felt like she was kind of forcing it or being almost scripted in what she was saying, even though it sounded like it was like she was coming across well spoken and articulate. At the same time, it felt very intentionally, she knew what she was saying. I didn't know if it was from the heart or not, at least for the way, I mean, I'm not trying to say it wasn't. I just don't know. I couldn't tell. And Joey was like, says they had good vibes and they had fun. She ends up winning the, like, she ends up later, we find out, I guess, making the impression to where they got to have some extra time. They go up and dance. Michael Bolton comes out, which is funny because of Evan from Your Mom and Dad is talking about how much money last week they spent on Billie Eilish, and now they've got Michael Bolton. I don't know. Michael Bolton probably costs more than Billie Eilish, and he's actually there live. Um, he's singing. Rachel and Joey are dancing. They're kissing in front of everyone, and it was a small. I felt like that was a very small reward. It was like she wins the group date, sort of. She doesn't get the rose, but she wins the wedding portion, and she gets a small reward of like, okay, you get to dance. You get one dance, but at the same time, it was like it wasn't private. It was right in front of everybody, and they're making out. She does the big toast. And so even though again, like I thought it was awkward, it felt like she must have, I mean, first of all, she clearly makes the impression enough during the part that I thought was awkward to win. Then after winning, she gets to kiss him in front of everyone and dance with Michael Bolton. So I think she definitely like made a lasting impression and developed her relationship with Joey. So good for her. Um, this is where I come back to saying Maria's just the boss of the game, and she's, in my mind, she's clearly in first place. So this is what Joey said was she keeps him on her toes. And okay, so let me take a step back. The reason I'm saying she's the boss is because during the evening portion of the group date, she takes Joey aside and she says, first of all, she's wearing uh, a, a dress that is got like a tennis skirt on the bottom. And remember, he's a tennis coach. It looks like something that you would see a professional female tennis athlete wear. Just on the bottom. Like the top is more revealing than what you would wear to play tennis in, but it sort of has the bottom of a tennis skirt. The top part is like a corseted top, which is, you know, it's just a very fun and sort of like what do you want to call that? Like period, it's almost like a period-esque dress where it's like a corset, you know, it's like it makes you think of a certain style of wearing a corset. Who doesn't love that? And then she's got the tennis part. It's like she's really thinking, and also it just speaks like it was really expensive. Then, I mean, we know money is like no object to Maria. Then she says in the middle of the day, he's like, hey, I want to know more about you. I don't feel like I know anything about you. She says, yeah, I want to tell you more about me, but first, let me just go slip into something more comfortable. And then she just gets up and leaves. And I mean, your mom and dad, Evan was talking about like how long it must have taken her to change. Not like it would have taken half an hour, but it probably would have taken 5 minutes at least. And, you know, they're on a group date. There's like, I think there was 11, no, there would have been like 10, 11 girls waiting for their 5 minutes with him. She's already getting all this time with him. And then in the middle of their conversation, she slips into something more comfortable, which had to have taken a minute. She comes back out, and it's like already the white corseted top tennis skirt dress was like a 10 out of 10. Like that was the best one. Like right in the middle, she's like, I'm gonna go slip into something more comfortable. Then she comes out and it's like she's wearing, I don't even know what you would call it, but the top half just sort of looks like lingerie. It's literally just looks like a bra. And then it's sort of like a, it's like not a crop top, it's like a bra. And then it's just all of her stomach is showing. And then there's like the skirt bottom. And somehow they're connected like on the back. I have no idea what you call this, but it's clearly very revealing. It's more revealing than any of the other women's dresses. And Jess was explaining on the podcast how it definitely would have been more comfortable because a corset is very tight and it kind of restricts your ability to breathe, whereas the lingerie is just like going to feel like way more comfortable. And so it's very much like true what she said. She did slip into something more comfortable. But Evan was pointing out, and my thoughts exactly, where it's like my wife and I, at the end of the day, you know, we both are wearing our regular outfit, like a nice shirt and jeans, or a sweater and jeans, but we make ourselves like try to like put together our best self for the day with our kids and our work. And then at like it's about time to put the kids down for bed, and it's like, wait, I'm gonna go slip into my Uggs, my sweatpants, my hoodie, and I'm gonna slip into something more comfortable. Or versus like I'm gonna slip into something more comfortable, like getting ready for sex energy. And it definitely felt like she's just like, okay, this is the sex kind, where she's just slipping into almost lingerie. And it's something it's a very cliche thing to say, but it's like right in the middle of the group date. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. And that's why I just say she's like the boss. Like nobody does this. I couldn't believe it when she did that. And he clearly loves it. He's got like the eyes popping out of his head. And she's like, "Yeah, I know you like." They just totally forget about getting to know her more. Um it's just all about like now we're just making out. And every time she makes out with him, she's like wrapping her arm around the back of his head and just pulling his head in. You can tell he can't think of anything else. He even says like, well, I really want to talk about this, but all I can think about is making out with you in this dress. So the idea that Maria's going to go home soon, I just can't even fathom that. In my mind, she's in first place. Um, so now, let's see, where should we go to now? Yeah, let's talk about Jess again. So we see Jess. She's gonna starts talking to him a little bit about infidelity. Um, Joey gives her a hug. She makes sure to get another kiss. Joey likes that she's open and honest. She gets a lot of screen time. So this is just my thoughts around this. So, and Evan was talking about this on their podcast. So there's The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. It's a reality TV show, and very much just like Survivor, it's a game to some degree. Now, it's like a I don't know how many weeks it is. Actually, I'm thinking Bachelor in Paradise, I think, is a total of like 4 weeks. The Bachelor might be longer than that. I don't know. It could be like 3 months, but it's not that long realistically, and people actually get married at the end of it sometimes. But definitely what happens every season is people fall in love and want to date and are not chosen and are brokenhearted. There's usually like 3 to 4 people that actually want to date at the end of it. And then the bachelor usually picks someone and they do date. And sometimes they make it 2 years, sometimes they make it 6 months. I think you could make an argument that if they choose to get together and they're both trying to get some social media status that they want to stay together for a certain period of time, then they're going to break up. But like sometimes they're staying together 2 years, they're getting engaged, they're getting married and getting divorced. Like these are actually people falling in love. Then you have people that are making it like top two and are like actually crushed. Like I think Joey is actually sad that Charity didn't pick him. And I believe that. So it's a game to some degree because in the beginning, in week one, there's 32 women. You just are like trying to make it to the top 10 or the top eight so that you're getting the screen time. You're really not there for the right reasons when you're one of 32. You're really, I mean, maybe it's a small chance. You're there to, you're sacrificing, you're basically quitting your job. If you're in school, you're dropping out of school. You have to spend approximately $10,000 to $20,000 on wardrobe. You're putting your entire life on hold. Yes, there's a chance that you're going to fall in love and get married, but there's also a chance that you're going to get rich and famous. And there's a much larger, like, I truly believe that people in the beginning, it's a game. And they are just, some people know how to play the game and they're like, I have made this sacrifice. And there is an art to just making it to the top 15. How do I do that? And you can tell that there are contestants in the game that are probably not that desirable by the lead. I remember when Matt was the Bachelor like 5 years ago, there was this woman, I'm not going to say her name, but Matt clearly never had any interest in her, and she made it like 5 episodes before she was sent home, but she was taking up like a third of every episode, and it was just she was the villain, she was dominating screen time. She was funny. She was able to interact with so many women, and she was almost acting a part that was unbelievable, but she was doing it sincerely. To this day, I think that might be who she really is, but it was just so awkward and over the top. But at the same time, it was like entertaining and ratings and capturing attention. And, people on podcasts would spend half their podcast talking about her. So that's what the producers of the show are looking for. And there's just so many different ways to play the game. There's so many different things that have worked really well in past seasons. And I feel like Jess, to bring all this back to Jess, she's just like, there's a dirty way to play it. There's, for example, you can interrupt people's dates. You can interrupt people's time. Episode 1, she'd already had time with him. She interrupts and gets more time with him on the first night. Like there's 32 women. We know that like 10 to 12 women won't get a chance to talk to him, and she's interrupting on the first night. And she kisses him. She goes back to the group and makes sure to tell all of the women that she kissed him. Of course, the women aren't going to like that, but she gets the reaction out of them. The cameras are on. Like, that's good for ratings. That's good for the audience. We all like seeing that. People are going to talk shit about her, but that's good for her screen time. And that's the producers like that. So, creating an alliance against you, tell the lead that you said something that you don't have the right intentions. Like maybe Jess could go to Joey and say, so and so said something or is gossiping. I don't think they have the right intentions. Now, she hasn't done that. But in this episode, we see her. It's like almost like a card. Like there's so many cards you can pull. There's only so many tricks up your sleeve, right? And she goes to him and she says she's all in the feels right now because something reminded her of infidelity in her life. And so Joey does what he always does, and he like listens and he's like, "Oh, I'm not, gonna hear you out and validate that that's not okay. And I don't know, like maybe she does have that. Maybe she did date someone and someone cheated on her, and that's real. I've been cheated on. It's very painful. Sometimes it's all consuming and it's just destroys you for a period. And it's like a real, like it is a terrible, terrible thing. And so I'm not going to say it's not, but it was almost like she quickly, very quickly gets out of the infidelity and is like, you're so great in the way you're handling the fact that I'm telling you that I got cheated on. And Joey is like, awesome, like let's hug it out. And she hugs, but then after she hugs, she does like the kissy eyes and then she makes sure to get her kiss out of it. And it's like screen time. Like, and then Joey ends up saying something in the interviews style where he's like, "Oh, I appreciate she opened up to me, but she did everything she needed to do to make it past. I mean, making it past episode one, first rose ceremony is huge. It's 32 down to 22. You've just cut out a third of the contestants, and now you're still there. Making it past week two, they're probably going from 22 to like 18, and now you're like, your odds of getting screen time, like there's just different stages of the game and different things you want to do, and it's like you versus the group in the beginning and then taking the opportunity to build something with him. And I don't know that I just haven't been convinced that um any of it's real. It's all just playing the game. Also, she's got this southern girl. It's like she's got this southern girl accent, but she moved to Colorado and then she moved to San Diego. It's a good story. It's a good narrative. Everything she does is so like just what we have seen in the past to be perfect, to always work. And props to her for playing the game right. I don't know that I think Joey's going to pick her. I think that she's probably, he's probably, maybe he likes her. I also think that even if he didn't like her, she is going to be picked by the producers. I almost feel like the producers are like, these six are in. Now you have 12 spots left that you get to pick. Um, all right. So next up is Daisy's one-on-one date. Um, Everyone loves Daisy, including me. All the girls on the show love Daisy. I feel like all of Bachelor Nation, everybody watching the show, Alex loves Daisy. You just can't get enough of Daisy. She's she's extremely genuine. Um, she started a nonprofit. She's super transparent. She smiles all the time. She's beautiful. She doesn't have bad intentions. Um, I mean, there's nothing to not like about Daisy, and I'm all for it. And honest to God, my top two would be Daisy and Maria, and it would be a very hard choice. I do think that Daisy is is probably more of the like long-term relationship uh personality for me, and Maria is probably like someone that you're just super intrigued by. And it seems like that's exactly what's happening with Joey. It's like he is obviously so intrigued by Maria, but Maria, it's like she's already rich and famous and she has the sprinkle company, and she's so um she's so just like intention, like that's when you try to compare someone to be not, or like a little bit against the daisiness, like the genuine transparent, it sounds bad. I don't mean it in a bad way, but that's not Maria. And it's hard to beat the genuine transparency of Daisy's personality. Daisy talks about how she loves music. She starts her own business. Joey loves that she loves music. Anytime somebody says, I started my own nonprofit, that's really impressive. I think she's young. She might be like 25. So, I mean, how many 25-year-olds have started their own nonprofit? Pretty sweet. So she gets the one-on-one date. They do the helicopter. Now we as the audience know that she has the cochlear implant. She has a hard time hearing. She has a hard time hearing in large group settings, so like rose ceremony type things or all the girls in one room. And it was really cool how she kind of explained a little bit about how it works. I actually met somebody in person that had one, and the whole they did a keynote speech, and the first 20 minutes they talked about it. So I had learned about it, but this was probably 10 years ago. And one thing that I didn't remember hearing was that every voice sort of sounds the same. And we also heard how it doesn't always work right away, and sometimes you grow into it. For her, luckily, it did work right away, but everyone sounded like a chipmunk, and she can't really distinguish who's talking. Almost every voice essentially sounds the same. First of all, it's awesome that it worked right away for her, and second of all, like, how crazy is that it works but not always right away. And just the fear, like putting yourself in that moment or in that position to where you're going to go through this surgery where they're actually putting something inside your skull. There's a chance it might not work, and there's a chance it might not work right away, and the fear and the waiting to find out. um and then she talks about the Lyme disease and how there was a period where she was sick and didn't really know what it was. Like, she didn't find out it was Lyme disease right away. She had seizures, couldn't walk, spent a lot of time in bed, had to move back home, had to go to Germany for 30 days to have treatment, had a lot of surgeries. So she's been through a lot. Um, it was very heartwarming to hear all of that. And then to see how incredibly happy and positive her attitude is today was very uplifting. It was just like a genuine, lovely treat to watch Daisy talk about this. But it's really stuck with me that she can't distinguish voices. And then also in like large group settings, since she can't really distinguish voices, if a lot of people are talking at once, if you think about she's reading lips, but she can only really read one person's lips at a time, and everybody's talking at once, it would be very hard to tell what people are saying. Then on their one-on-one date, they've got her on a helicopter and almost like at a festival. So I felt like they were doing that intentionally too. It's like put her in situations where it's really loud just because the audience knows that it's going to be difficult for her. So I hope it didn't bother her, but it didn't seem like it did. So let's move on to the second group date. So we just cut to Joey lifting tires, and we've got Jubilee and Demi, previous Bachelor Nation contestants. Um, Bachelor boot camp. In my mind, this is terrible. I wouldn't want to do this at all. I'm not somebody that likes to work out with other people. I'm not somebody that enjoys showing off working out. I'm not a broy, let's get out here and work out in the mud. Let's do push-ups together. I hated football practice. I absolutely hated it. I don't mind. I actually like working out, taking care of myself. I'm into health and nutrition. I do not like working out with other people. Um, it's just not for me. And so, would I have done the Bachelor boot camp? No. I would have just, I would have probably done enough to try to not be seen and not have it be an issue. But if I would have hopped on the ground and done like one push up very slowly and just waited for the next thing, um, then they start playing the stupidest game of paintball that I've ever seen. It very much reminds me of Harry Potter and Quidditch, where there's just the rules make no sense. Harry Potter and Quidditch's stupidest thing ever. It doesn't make any sense. There's this there's this whole game set up, and you spend so much time hearing about all the different balls, all the different hoops that they can throw the balls into, all the different ways to score points, and it's all worthless. It's all meaningless because whoever catches the snitch, automatically the game ends and they get enough points that they win. So there is no way to catch the snitch and not win. And actually, I think that there might be. I think you could be like so far behind that if you catch the snitch, you lose. But in that scenario, you just wouldn't catch the snitch. I don't know. And honestly, like I'd have to go back and think about it again. I remember the last time I looked at the game of Quidditch, it was like, no, it's just the stupidest thing because if you catch the snitch, you just win. And so everything else is just meaningless. And it's just like for the point, it's just for the sake of having a game. I don't know. Anyway, this paintball game, it's like there's no rules. It's capture the flag, right? But a very key component of capture the flag is you got the blue team and the pink team. If someone from the pink team is going to get the blue team's flag and they get caught or they get tagged or captured in the game, they have to kind of go to the blue team's little hidey hole and wait for some other member of the pink team to come over and tag them, and now they're free. And then in order for them to, a lot of times they don't just get tagged and then they can run and capture the flag. They get tagged, they have to like cross back into blue territory or pink territory, I mean, and then come back over and try to get the flag. In this game, there's just no point. It doesn't matter if you get hit by paint, essentially. Like, where I was going with that is like you could say instead of getting tagged, instead of getting captured, if you get hit by paint, you're sort of out. You have to go to timeout. You have to go back to your side. You can't get access to our flag. It's like, we got you. You didn't get to the flag because I got you with paint. No, you're just getting hit with paint. So Edwina realizes this right away and she's like, there's no rules. Like, this is stupid. Like, I'm just going to charge for your flag, your little pillow thing, get it, and I'm going to get smacked in the face and body with paint, but it doesn't mean anything. So who cares? I'm just going to run and get it. We're all going to get paint on ourselves anyway. So, like, I'm just going to run and go get it. So she just, like, runs, gets smashed with paint a bunch of times, but she gets the flag. It's the stupidest game. And um I couldn't get over that. I was like, the whole time I was so frustrated with how stupid the game was. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. I just couldn't understand it. But then we do get to see time with Edwina. She talks about how she's originally from Liberia and she feels pressure for being the oldest. She felt pressure because of the sacrifice of her parents, everything that they went through to get her here. It really reminded me of the Third Door book that I want to talk about. The author of that book is Alex Benayan. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But um, his parents were from India. They sacrificed a lot to come to America. And then he goes to school and they really want him to be a doctor. And he doesn't want to be a doctor, but it's kind of like this pressure of, well, we gave up everything and left our country to come to America for you. So now you basically have to become this doctor. And Edwina's talking about how all of the sacrifice that her parents went through, she didn't really correlate it to like she has this, like it's not like her parents are telling her you have to do this for us, but there still, I'm sure, is a certain pressure of like she has to succeed or her life has to have this great meaning because her parents almost sacrificed their life and their happiness and their dreams for her. I'm sure, obviously I don't know her at all, but I'm sure that like if you think about her parents, like their dream, it sounds like, was leaving Liberia and coming to America and starting a family in America. I don't think anybody that makes a sacrifice doesn't get something out of that type of, like, I have a friend who moved here from France. Well, they had a daughter in France, but then before the daughter turned 2, now she lives here in America. They made their dreams come true and moved to America. Now, he told me his lifelong dream was to move to America. I'm sure that in 20 years, their daughter could easily say, my dad sacrificed a lot, left France, came to America, and now I feel this pressure. Now, that could not be her situation at all. Maybe it is way different than what I'm talking about. But I just think that, like, they were able to successfully leave Liberia, which was their plan, and come to America. That was probably pretty awesome for them. I doubt that they have a lot of pressure on her. Now, at the same time, she feels it. And so her feelings are valid and real. She's feeling a lot of pressure. She's also the oldest. So when she says oldest, I'm taking that to mean she has younger siblings. I have younger siblings too. And there is a certain feeling where you want to be a good example. And of course, inevitably, we all make mistakes and then we feel like we're not a good example. I've, even felt like I've been told I wasn't a good example, which is pretty devastating. So I definitely can relate to feeling pressure to um, just be perfect sometimes. And it's very hard to do that. I felt like Edwina really crushes it. She dominates the game. Then she is selected to have one on one time with him. She almost has to defend herself and say that she doesn't feel guilty. She's like, no, I'm excited for it. And I'm sure that the other women didn't mean to make her feel like that, but, you know, they thought they were all going to get to spend time with him. And then it was just Edwina. So there was probably a little bit of like, but really, like, she went all out in the game. She totally deserved it. It was cool to get to see her and get to know her a little bit better. So I'm glad we got to do that. She got a rose. So good for her. All right. So now we have before the rose ceremony. Let's see. So there's this whole thing with Medina. Let's see where we're at. I'm just going to quickly check and see where I'm at on time. All right. So I'm about an hour. Okay. I think that's good. So I thought the thing with Medina was stupid and also interesting. It's a very bachelor cliche thing, but it's also just a real life thing. And I definitely I want to talk about it for a second. So, um first of all, there's a lot of things. I'm just going to say I am 36, about to be 37. I have friends that are older than me, I have friends that are younger than me, and when you're in your age, I feel like is always a relative thing and it's always a meaningful thing. It's you're always feeling young or old depending on who you're around, depending on the situation, but as you get older you're just feeling old. um but when I joined my fraternity, I felt a little bit older than because I just left high school, but I was the youngest in the fraternity. When you turn 21 and you're in a fraternity, you're like ancient. You can't go to the frat parties anymore, but you're also going to the bars, so you're kind of young in that crowd. But if you don't like, you don't have a lot of money, so you can't afford to go to the bars all the time. And frat party's $5. But if you go to the frat party as a 21-year-old, the 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds don't like you being there because you're sort of the old guy in the room. And you're 21. And if you think about that, that's like they're literally 18 and 19 and 20, and you're 21. But they see you as 4 years older. Really it's only three, but it's like you're a senior, or um, you're really just definitely seen as old. Then if you're 23 or 24 and you're going to that 21 frat bar on the the strip of bars where everybody goes out, you're old again. I very distinctly remember being 23 and being like, wow, I feel really old in this bar. But like now that I'm 36, it's like if you're 21 or you're 26, you're just in your 20s and you're young. If you're 27, 28, 29, you're starting to mature a little bit, but you're still really young to me. If you're 30, 31, 32, it's like, okay, you're in your 30s, you're matured, you've been around. Hopefully you are starting to learn a lot about yourself. You're into your career. Um, you probably just become this extremely interesting, hopefully very confident in who you are person. You're still young. You're still 31, you know. I'm sure though, but I have coworkers in my day job. My day job has always felt like the average age was like late 40s. I started in my day job when I was 26. And so I've always been the young person in my day job. And every once in a while, I'm running into some people that are much younger than me. But for the most part, it's like a few people are my age, majority of people are in their 40s or 50s. And so I just always feel young. They see me as green, needing to learn more, like people like want to mentor me. And so um it's all relative, right? Okay, now back to this. So the age thing with Medina. Medina is talking about how she's just expressing, I think to Maria, maybe to some other people, that she's feeling old because she's the oldest one out of all the women and she's 31. And Maria says to her face that, hey, I don't think you should feel like that. Like I'm 29, you're 31. There's other women here that are 30. You're not old. Like this is don't, you know, you're not old. It's fine. And she's not talking shit. She's not belittling. She's not trying to dismiss Medina's feelings. She's just saying like, "Hey, we're not old. Like it's okay. Joey doesn't care about that. You don't need to worry about it." We don't really get to see a lot more of like how Medina took that, but the point is that Maria is not against Medina. She's not shaming her. She's not age shaming her. She's not belittling her. She's like, "Hey, you're good." But then later, she's talking to a third party who we don't really see, and she's very loud, and that's not great, but she's just reiterating, hey, Medina's saying she thinks she's old. And I was like, I don't think you're old. I'm 29. She's just telling the story. Now, anytime in life, if I'm talking to a person about a conversation I just had with a third person, and the third person's not there, and a fourth person is over here hearing this, it sounds like gossip, and I get that, but it's not really shit talk. It is technically gossip, but we know that Maria is not meaning it badly. And also, it's not like she's saying Medina is trash or Medina sucks or Medina really messed up. She's saying Medina said she was old, and I was like, no, you're not. Be proud of who you are. And then we have Sydney just overhearing this, doesn't confront. She overhears it because Maria's loud, but she hears exactly what is said, which is Maria just saying, hey, you're not old. I mean, that's not bad. It's just technically talking about Medina who wasn't present. Sydney then tells Medina, but she changes it and makes it sound like Maria's talking shit. Then she starts telling everybody the same thing, like, "Hey, Maria's basically talking shit," and it's like this game of like that's not actually the way Maria meant or the way Maria was actually doing it. She was just telling someone the story, but not in a way that talks shit. And Sydney was portraying it like she is talking shit. And what sucks about it is now Medina, and if somebody comes up to you in real life and says, hey, so and so is talking about you, or so and so's talking shit, and you know that there's some truth to it, because it's like, well, I just told so and so this thing. And now I'm hearing from a third party that wasn't present that so and so is talking about that thing with other people. And you're like, well, that is not cool. That is gossip. Why? I thought I trusted them. I thought that I was telling them in confidence, and now now they're telling that to other people, and it just, of course, it's very bad. It comes across like you're not you don't trust them anymore. Their reputation in your mind is not good. Like, now this person almost has to win you back over even though they didn't do anything. And all of this is the pot stirrer of Sydney doing this. And this happens in real life all the time. Now, if Maria had been like saying Medina sucked, then fine. I don't like Sydney doing it because you're just the pot stirrer, but at least like you're stirring actual stuff. This is just totally made up. Like, this is like just, I'm gonna mess up Maria's reputation. And part of me feels like it's almost like a Maria is a legit threat, and maybe they can all see that. And Sydney's like, I've got to do something about this. I've got to like try to get Joey to not like her that much. The whole time this is going on, I'm like, can't figure out how old Joey is, and I didn't Google it until today, but he's 28. Maria's 29. I dated someone who was 2 years older than me. I never once thought about it. I never cared about it. Um, I don't know. I'm sure it's a thing. I'm sure it's like a thing that you think about. If you were the oldest one, if I was the oldest one, and well, I don't know. I think it's probably different for men and women, because like dating a younger woman is just like seen as more normal, when that's stupid. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be a thing at all. Again, like I said, I dated someone older than me, and I never thought about it. So I'm sure though that if you were a woman and you're older than the lead, you're going to think about it. And she's 3 years older, and she is the oldest one. So I think it's justified that she feels some sort of way about it. I also think that it's true that Maria wasn't talking shit. So this whole thing is just stupid to me. Um. All right. Anyway, let's move on from that. Oh yeah. Lastly, though, Maria just goes up to the group after she kind of confronts Medina, and is like, she comes in pretty hot and heavy, and Medina doesn't really like it. Then after talking to Medina, she goes to the whole group, and she's like, "Who was talking shit about me?" And Sydney then is like, raises her hand and says it was me, which is cool. I'm glad she didn't hide from it. But then Maria like crushes her. Um, she just crushes drama in a way like no one else does. I'm not saying all the girls loved it. She definitely came across very strong, but in my mind, she came across in a way that the audience cannot be mad about. She really stood up for herself. She said, "No, I think Medina's beautiful. I don't think the age is a real thing." Um, Sydney was like, "You're not validating, you're dismissing Medina's feelings." And Maria was like, "You're right about that. My bad. But still, I think she's beautiful." Um, Sydney ends up saying, I feel like Sydney is like, well, I'm annoyed. She just comes across as like, she can't really hang with Maria as far as intellectually. Um, she can't hang with Maria like in a debate, in a public confrontation in front of all the other women. She's going to get dominated by Maria and Maria's energy, and the way Maria speaks and the way Maria carries herself. And I just don't recommend doing it again. Um, the last thing that I think we should talk about, I guess, is Lauren leaving. Joey handles it really well. The cake's not red velvet. That's hilarious. I think the biggest thing to highlight here, which is so funny and so iconic, is Lauren when Lauren's like, she's like, "Yeah, I'm out," and then they're just like, "Okay, let's eat the cake," and she's like, it's like there's no regrets. She's like, "Yeah, I'm out." And then as she's kind of saying goodbye and eating the cake, she's like, "Maybe I'll see you at hometowns." And I had thought about that last week, but I kind of forgot. And then I'm watching this episode and she actually says it. And it's just like, it was epic when she said that. Um, I don't think that Allison is going to make it to hometowns. If Allison does make it to hometowns and Lauren is there, I am I'm truly going to look forward to that moment. I do feel like we'll definitely see them both on Paradise. Their storyline is great. Lauren, they're both from Philadelphia. They both got the big personalities. Lauren goes out in episode 2 with a bang. She throws the cake. She delivers an epic line. Maybe I'll see you at hometowns with my sister. Um, it was just great. It was a great exit. I think that's all I got for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, taking the time to be here. If you have any comments or thoughts, would love to hear your feedback. Really going to try to get the third door out later this week. And yeah, just thank you for all your support as we try to get this off the ground. Got a lot going on in life right now, and so it feels good to have um, 2 episodes in back-to-back weeks. But at the same time, got a long ways to go. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.